Who am I? What am I? Where am I? What am I doing here? Hey, this is the Grace Hour Show, a podcast coming to you live from Baltimore, where we're wondering if we're in Alaska or Finland today. It's very cold, snowy time here in Baltimore. But we have something to talk about today here on the Grace Hour Show, identity versus being image conscious in the midst of a world that's at war. And I'm Pastor Steve Andrulonis with Greater Grace Church. And with me is Zsombor Szuk, who is in town for a wedding.
Yes.
He graduated from Bible College, Maryland Bible College and Seminary last spring, and he's attending university back in his home country of Hungary.
Yes.
And we're just grateful that he happened to be on the campus today, helping chip away the ice on our parking lot, and we just brought him in here. So we're going to talk about identity and being image conscious, and well, it's just great to see you. It's really great to see you back in Baltimore. We loved having you here for 4 years. 4 years, 5 years?
4 years.
4 years, and it was great. And we know that you were led by the Lord to go back to your home country and to study in a university. So universities are a place of much identity warfare.
Definitely.
So, they want you to fit a certain image. So I'm interested in your, going from Bible college, and then being a, very active part of Christian outreach and everything. And just interested, what is the warfare like at your level, being a college student on a campus that's not Christian, right?
Yeah. So I want to say, so I go home, I was really very careful. I didn't know if I should even go to university. I prayed a lot about it, and I really felt led to do so. Mm-hmm. I was scared that it would maybe take me away from ministering in the church or being a missionary, right? Because it's very easy to. I have a lot of credits. I'm a full-time student. So I have 34 credits this semester, so it's a lot. And then, I'm there a lot, but God led me, and I'm so grateful that I'm actually there, because I realized I have such an opportunity there to be a minister, and that is a mission field. And so I study in a scientific field. It's basically bioengineering. And so there are it's an interesting campus because, well, technically it's a Catholic university that I attend.
So there is a spiritual element there.
There is.
A little bit.
And I was kind of iffy about it when I went there, because I don't know, but I was definitely pleasantly surprised by the whole thing. I know our principal, is a Christian, he's a believer, and quite a few of my teachers are actually believers. And I found a couple classmates too who are believers, and I was very, very blessed by that. And the whole thing, yet at the same time, of course, it's still a very pristine scientific institution in Hungary. We have a lot of research going on. So it's a very interesting place where actually is the slogan of the school. It's in Latin, Fides et Ratio, which is faith and reason. So, and so here we are in Hungary and just studying there, and it's just in a way very different. Of course. But at the same time, God has given me an amazing time, an amazing portion there. I believe it, and it's not me. It's his doing. He works it, and I just get to be there. And I want to say before I went home, I talked with Pastor Matt Garrett, our director at Bible College, and I was I don't know, how's it gonna be? It's gonna be very different. I have a lot of things I'm gonna be doing, and he told me hey, if you just see God's kingdom first, everything will fall into place. And I was I don't know about that, I know I have a lot of things on my plate, but he was very right. And when by God's grace I can see His kingdom first, then it's in its right, university is in its right place, family and my friends and the things I do, they're in their right place, and there's joy in it, and there's a ministry there when they're not the first thing, but they come after God.
Yeah, I think that was good advice that Pastor Matt gave you about seeking the kingdom? Because I think that we can, we should be, as people of God, the most countercultural citizens on the planet, right? Because, really, we are told several times that we are strangers in this world. I mean, this world is not our home. We are actually new creations in a place that's still dying, right? How do you process that?
Yeah, a new creation. I love, I'm thinking maybe of like Romans 8, like all creation groans, and we ourselves groan because we're like, we kind of like sense it, we feel it, like, oh my gosh, there's such a, like, even like in our lives, like I want more, more of like the life of God, the spiritual, the transcendent, like I want more of that. But it's like I'm bound by like of course, and like when we live by faith, like that's happening in our life. We live in like heaven. We live in in like the reality of God, and we can have like we live in who He is. But like still, like we're still human, and we have like, of course, physical limitations, and we get tired. We fall into sin. We stumble, and we're like groaning, like come on, like I want more of it. But like and it's like such an interesting like little like dynamic that we get to have in our Christian walk.
I think that now you being Hungarian, coming from Budapest and then coming to Baltimore, like, so you had like, did you felt not out of place, but you knew that you were not a citizen of this city, but so does that like give you some resources for like your identity, like maintaining an identity? So 4 years you live here as a citizen of Hungary in the United States in a city like Baltimore. Did you feel out of place sometimes, or at first? How did you?
Yeah, definitely. I remember like the very first time I came, like it was very easy. But it's also great because it taught me like what home is it's not really a place, I, of course, like don't get me wrong, I very, very love my family, and I very much like love to be with them. I love to stay in our home in Budapest, and I love to be, with my parents, my siblings. It's an amazing place, and it's awesome that we have homes and that we have families. But at the same time, that it's something more. I don't want to be like limited to like a place or, but just that we have more, that we seek for more, and God, that's by God's grace alone. Like we get to sense, I don't know, like if, I wonder, like it says when Moses, like he's there and there's a burning bush, and it said like he turned aside, and when God saw that Moses turned aside, like he started to speak to him. And like maybe like we get a glimpse of this thing, and if by God's grace, alone and His mercy, we turn aside, then like God starts to show us things, and like that there's more, and we start to be hungry for it. And of course, then we get distracted, we stumble, but like still like God is ever drawing us to this, like that there's more, that our home is really in heaven, that our home is beyond this earth, that He's given us something much higher. And like we rejoice in this. Paul talks about this, like in Peter too, that you rejoice in this hope, that is laid up. You love because of this hope that is in heaven. You have this hope in heaven, and there's treasure and inheritance in heaven, and that there's more. And I think we seek that more wherever we are. If we have like our little closet and we can like find God, then like we have an opportunity to like live in reality. I mean, live in the eternity. Yeah. And like we seek it, and God is like drawing us to it, and we know like, oh my gosh, like that's where I belong, like that's it, like I want to live, and whatever I do, even mundane things, I can do like my schedule, like I want to have like God in it. I want to live in like the eternal aspect of like the eternalist, Pastor Stevens' message, but like to have the eternal in my everyday life. And like, I think just like getting to experience that and learn. And if I could say this one more thing, if you don't mind.
Go, no, like, go ahead. It's great.
Like, I'm so happy that I get to go to university. At some point, I of course entertained like the thought of like maybe full-time ministry or something. But I realized like, you know, like, oh, like I get to just like be with God and the Bible and all that. And like I realized like the days that I do have like the whole day, like I'm not necessarily like all that, like, of course I have amazing days with God, but like still like I get to go to university. I get to have like a full-time job or like a full-time occupation in the world. Like I get to see what people are going through. Like the average person is going through this. Not everyone has the opportunity to like have a full-time, like be a full-time minister and have like, I guess all day to like be with God or invest in people. But for many of the Christians in the world, many of our brothers and sisters, like they have a full-time thing that they do in the world. And like I get to experience I get to learn like how to bring God into like the everyday aspect of life. It's not just like when I'm on outreach or when I'm in church, when I'm having like my devotional time that I can have God, but I can have God like in what I do, in like the everyday mundane, the details of life. Like I can have like God in it and like I can have eternity in it. And that's like so exciting. And all of a sudden, like the things that like drag me down, like if God is in it, it gives life and I have joy in it and I can have like a ministry and it's just like amazing to like experience like how God just brings these to life.
Wow, that's, you know, like, because I guess the being in a generation that's, you know, very much image oriented, you know, like, how you're supposed to dress, how you're supposed to look, what kind of social platforms you're supposed to be on, how you're supposed to express yourself and like, you know, this like sort of this radical individuality, like, you know, there is no, you're not, you know, it's almost like they want to, like, this is more of a scientific word, atomize you, like, you know, reduce you to, you know, you are this way and you should, like, if all the atoms that are floating around us decided to, you know, become individuals, nothing would cohere anymore, you know, and we know that it's by God that all things by him consist. They're in Christ, you know, and, you know, I agree with that. It's like, you know, maybe in U.S. culture, it seems like there's an emphasis on like the idea of like ministry belongs to full-time people who do that, you know, the ones who are ordained, the one who went to theological school. Now you went to theological school and now you're in, would you say bioengineering? Bioengineering. So you're talking about, you know, you're talking about biology, you're talking about the stuff of people and the stuff of animals and, you know, those kind of things and how it's engineered and you bring God into it. And I think that's like, you know, that's like a very needed thing. Cause I would say like, you know, maybe especially in your part of the world, in Europe, it's like, you know, there's very few ministry professionals, and then some of those ministry professionals are state jobs, you know. They're licensed by the state, so they're really doing the job of the government, not doing the job of the government of heaven. I'm not saying all of them. I'm sure there's, like you're saying, you've got a principal at the school that's a believer, beautiful, and you know the motto of the school is faith and reason, right? Is that what you said? Yes. So it's like, and this was really like when we go back to like, you know, the days of Copernicus and Isaac Newton and these others, we know that, you know, faith was not divorced from scientific study, and you didn't have to maintain like this image as like, I believe this. You had an identity in Christ, and then you brought that identity to what you did with your hands. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. And I just want to say like God's faithfulness and all that. Like, yeah, like okay, like just a testimony with this principle. We got to have like a little like time with him, like I guess our class or whatever. And we all got to like ask him a question. So I asked him this question, like, in like all your years of being a principal, like, what's the best leadership principle, I guess, that you've learned? And he's just thinking for a second, and he said, you know what, like, seeing that this is a Catholic university, it really means like that the leader or the head of this university is actually Jesus, and I'm just a servant. And like, I want to remember that. He's saying like, in my everyday duty, I have to do so many things. I want to remember that like Jesus is the real leader of this school, and I'm just a servant. And I was blown away. Wow. I was like, no way. Like, this guy, you know, he's like the principal. He has like a PhD in biotechnology and whatnot. And he's like a very bright mind. And he's like the principal of this university. And he's like, yeah, like, I just want to give it to Jesus, and like, I want to be a servant. And I was like so blessed by that, you know. I was like, wow.
It's such a gift to you, right?
I know.
It's such a gift, like, wow.
Yeah, like, really. And yeah, I want to say also, like, if like just going back to like the everyday things, like just another testimony. Like, we had like the finals week, and I have a lot of pretty hard classes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I have like calculus,
a lot of concentration.
Yeah, I have like, you know, just the high, you know, quantum chemistry, whatever, like very high level stuff. And like everyone's like studying like a lot, you know? And I'm like, I'm never at a point like, oh, I don't think I should study for my class anymore. But God was leading me like, do you trust me? Like, for your exams, like, do you trust me for this part of your life? Like, I pray so much, like, before maybe I preach or before like I meet with somewhere I can minister, like, Lord, could you take this? And of course, God is faithful in those, but then God comes and like, God is like, do you trust me with this as well? Which seems like you should do more, like, hey, I should study more and like to get a better grade. But God is like, do you trust me with this as well? And like, it was a long process. And of course, like, you know, back and forth in my mind, and just like a lot of, and like, I'm very grateful that I said like yes. And like, God really brought me through this like season of like exams with like unreal grades. Like, I can't, like, all my classmates were like, how did you, like, I got 100 in calculus. Like, that's insane. Like, that is insane. That's insane. Yeah. And I'm like, all my guys, they're like, how did you do that? I'm like, I just prayed and I trusted God, and like, God really like led me. And like, of course, like, I did end up studying some, but God really led me in my study. Like, hey, like, this is like, hey, look over this. And like, and just like, okay, God, like, I want to do this by your power. I don't want to do this by my power. And like, learning, I guess, like, I've been like trying to learn, or like God has been teaching me how like I can do things that maybe I'd be even naturally good at, like by his strength, not by the natural strength that maybe God gave me, but to lean on him in even these things that maybe I might be good at. Like, Lord, here it, like, I don't want to lean on myself. I want to lean on your strength, and you do it, and you do. And it's been like an unreal like journey of so many testimonies. And yeah, like, there was this one exam, I was praying like God, and God's like, trust me, you know, and it was an exam, like 25, we have like a little group within like the whole class is 25 of us. And out of the 25 of us, only 7 of us even passed the exam on the first try. And I got an A. And it was, I was like, I went and I just like cried in the bathroom after, like, God, I can't believe you did this. Yeah. And like, learning that I can trust just really my whole life to God's hand. And of course, like, we stumble, and it's so easy, you know, like, especially when there's something difficult, or like, I really want to do something, like, oh, I want to do this, like, here, I want to take it in my hands. But God's like, trust me, give it to me. And like, I want to say there's so much more fun when it's so much more joy, and there's like, God, there's life in it when like I do that. Even when it's mundane things, like being with my family, being with a friend, like, God, could you do this? And like, when he does it, there's life, and there's like, oh my gosh. And it's, you come away and it's not, you're not weighed down, but like, I'm filled. And it's just like an amazing thing. Like, I'm so grateful that I have the opportunity to, by his mercy, that I can learn these things, you know? And it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm going to take you maybe in a little theological direction because I know you love this. Okay, but we know the 10 Commandments. We know that, the first one is like you have no God before him, and then no idols, those kind of things. And we get to this idea of like Sabbath. And I think what I hear you telling me is like you're not entering into a striving. I'm thinking like when Israelites were brought out of Egypt, right? They had been living 400 some years as slaves, which meant no rest, right? No rest, right? It's totally work, totally produce the bricks, totally help build the temples for Egypt and everything like that. And then God gave this commandment, like, keep holy the Sabbath. It's like you have got to stop working for 24 hours. The sun goes down on this day, and then you don't start working again until the sun goes down again. And I'm just thinking, like, what I'm hearing is like resting in God. The idea of Sabbath is so important to an identity, especially in an image conscious age, because I have been this way. Like I have been this way. Like if I don't show up to do what I think I'm supposed to do, people will think less of me.
Yeah.
And like if you're not like cramming and studying like maybe other groups of students, but you are like you're reading your Bible and that you've already got and then the test comes and like you're at rest, right?
Yeah.
Describe like maybe like how the Sabbath like sort of helps our identity, right? Because if we stop working, then we have to trust God that that our job will still be there, right?
Yes. And I want to read. Where is this? Yes. So I was thinking like with Joseph.
Yes, Joseph. Yep.
Like he had God gave him a vision of like who he's going to be. And like he maybe had like this sense of like, oh, I'm gonna go and do it, or like, oh, I don't know what he had the idea, but then of course he gets sold to Egypt and he becomes also a slave. But God like then he gets into jail and he's there and like altogether like 13 years, I believe.
Yeah, a lot of time.
And I just like wonder what goes on in his mind. And then like they bring him and like. Thing about like in jail, he interprets the dream of two
government officials, really, right? Really close officials too. Pharaoh's court.
Yeah, and like all of a sudden, like he sees that, like it worked. I mean, he sees that what he said would happen, it did happen. You know, like I wonder, like. It's so easy to become proud. Like I see it in my life. If I do something through God and through God's strength, it's still easy to like have like, oh, I did it. Like I hate it, but it's like pride has like a way of like creeping in. And I'm just looking for this place and I'm sorry, and like I believe it's in Genesis 41. I can't exactly find a verse right now, but like Pharaoh has the dream and no one can interpret it. And then the cupbearer remembers like, oh, there was this man and he could interpret dreams. And the Pharaoh brings Joseph and he's like, I heard that you can interpret dreams, so could you like do this? And I love what Joseph says. He's like, it is not in me, but God can give the interpretation to the king. And I can't find a verse, but he says this. Yeah. He's like, it is not in me, but there's a God in heaven who can do it. And like, just that God brings us to this place, like, it is not in me, but but there's a God in heaven and he does it and he's the one. And I love in Daniel, like God really gave these verses to me when like he was speaking to me just to trust him. Like the same thing happens with Daniel. Like when he's brought to interpret the dream, in the first place, that he says like, he prays like, but there is a God in heaven who reveals mystery and he has made known, he says, no wise man can do it. Yeah, blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding. He reveals deep and hidden things. He knows what is in the darkness, and light dwells with him. I love that. Yeah. To you, O God of my fathers, I give thanks and praise, for you have given me wisdom and might, and have now made known to me what we asked of you. For you have made known to us the king's matter. And then later in chapter 4, like when Nebuchadnezzar has another dreams, it says, in verse 17, Daniel 4:17, the sentence is by the decree of the watchers, the decision by the word of the holy ones, to the end that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men and gives it to whom he will and sets over it the lowliest of men. And that phrase is repeated 3 or 4 times here. Yeah. And Nebuchadnezzar ends up realizing oh my gosh, I'm this huge king. I have this
great image.
Great empire, and he even sets up an image of himself, right?
That's right. Yeah, he does.
But then he gets humbled and he becomes like an animal. And why? And because that he would know that God rules and he gives it to whomever he wants. And I love that. That really spoke to me. I could spend all my time studying, or I could do with all my whatever. I could really strive for something. But at the end of the day, it's in God's hand. And of course, Proverbs talks about being diligent and not being slothful. And I by no means want to disregard that, because there's a huge blessing in that. I just want to make the point that at the end of the day, it is God who gives, and he's the one who he bestows it on whomever he wants and sets over it. It says the lowliest of men, and I could be a nobody, and and God, and it's God's gift, and he does it, and it's in his hand. He rules over the kingdom of man, and he changes times and seasons. He gives wisdom, he gives might, and we see that over and over in the Bible. And Andrew Murray actually says this in one of his devotionals about the book of Hebrews, the holiest of all. At the end of Hebrews 11, he says history is really just a testament to God, what God will do for those who trust him. Mm. And I love that so much. All of history is just on display, what God will do for those who trust in him. And I want to live it's so easy not to live like that. So easy to live by sight. But God is bringing us, and by his might, really, I want to live like that, that he, he's the one. I trust him, and that's whatever amazing. He wants to do, do it, and then we get to enjoy his presence.
Yeah, those are two, you realize people who recognize their identity in difficult situations. You're talking Joseph and Daniel. Yeah. Later on in the last chapter of Genesis, we see that Jacob has died, and the brothers are sure they have an image of Daniel as just biding his time, and then he's going to do what everyone else does, take his vengeance. Yeah. And then that's another great statement of him. Am I in the place of God? And this is this is where we have our identity. We are put in our places by God, but ultimately God is sovereign over us. And this is the identity that we have to have. So an image is I see an image is surface, and it has no power in it, but an identity in Christ is something that God establishes in the heart. And the Chosen series, right?
I know of it.
Well, there's another series now called The House of David.
Yes.
And me and my wife were watching the episode where Samuel goes to anoint David as king, and he puts he sees the different, he touches the chest of each of the other sons of Jesse, and then he gets to David, and then he sees what's in his heart, God gives him a vision. And Samuel, he's really kind of a crazy look to it. It's it's a very interesting, but Samuel steps away and he starts saying, "Oh, you were going to, God is so funny. He's saying like his wife, he had a conversation with his wife. God gave me this message to go and anoint this person as king. And now God is so funny. His wife said it and he said, God is so funny. You would never, and it's like, this is the whole idea. Like the identity that we really have is like what we have put into our hearts, like mind renewal, Romans 12, and not conform to the stories, but constant transformation. And I think you have discovered that as a young man, constant transformation while you were here, and now while you have transitioned into this different setting, right?
Yeah.
And you got something else to come from the word there?
I guess just like adding to that, like I would say, at least in my life, I don't know, like the dynamic of it is just like what I've been experiencing really, like for mind renewal, it's like I by God's grace, I walk with him. And then all of a sudden I just realized like, oh my gosh, like that's new. Like I didn't used to, like, I wasn't thinking like that. Like, maybe like a couple months ago, a couple of years ago, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had just had like that thought. And I'm like, I know, like, it's like, God, like, wow, like God, you have been like working in my life. And like, I didn't even like, what Jacob said, like God has been here and I knew it not.
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh. And he also says it like later, I love it. Like he says like when after he's coming away from Laban, I believe it's Genesis 32, like first two verses. He's coming away from Laban and then he knows Esau's coming and he's afraid and he has like all these things fearful. In his mind. Yeah. And then it says like the angels of God met him and he says like, oh, this is God's camp, and he calls it Mahanaim, which just means like two camps. But I just love like he realizes like, oh, this is God's, like I'm like doing these things and maybe I'm living my life and of course like I see God, but like all of a sudden like God meets me and like, oh, this is God's camp. Like, oh, this is like God's, and God's doing it in my life. Like I just have like, like more or less like, I guess success or whatever. Like we just try to walk with God and like to be with him and really how it looks like, prayer and reading. But like, I don't want to make that like the idol, I just I want to like, just like being with God, like as simple as that and how it looks like. We of course have disciplines, but like being with God is like the essence of it. Like, like maybe like reading the Bible is not the end, but it's like the means of like being with God. Like God reveals himself through this and communicates to us. And like in our life, when we hide it, like God brings it back. But I don't even know where I'm just like God is the one who just like transforms us. And like, we're like, oh my gosh, like God did it. And like, it's like a privilege, like, wow, like God just transformed me. And I don't really think it's my work so much. I have the pleasure of being with God, and I have like by God's grace, I have like God is drawing us and he's working in us. And I guess like I wanted to read that in Isaiah 26, like, oh Lord, you will ordain peace for us. For you have indeed done for us all our works. Like God is doing all our works for us. And the next verse in New King James, it says like, well, I have the ESV, but it says, O Lord our God, other lords besides you have ruled over us, but your name alone we bring to remembrance. And the New King James, it says, by your name alone we make, by you alone we make mention of your name. Like I love that it brings it back, like God into the picture twice. Like through God alone we are able to worship God. Like he gives us the power to worship him. And he is the, like, I guess like coming to the identity, like bringing it back, like it is like we kind of like start to like lose ourselves in him, and like he's the one, and it's awesome.
Yeah, I just I think like we can be. You are a Bible reader, and like we could say like the disciplines and the routines, we don't dismiss them, but we don't elevate them to a status of like. Tying us up in knots. Like if I don't do this, I'm not going to be, but through the Spirit, like you said, to will and to do of his good pleasure is something that is a resource from God, not a resource in ourselves.
Yes.
It's like just the fact that I thought about doing of his good pleasure. It came from the Holy Spirit himself, you know, and rather than creating an image that I wear, I create a heart that's after God, and that will manifest itself at the point in time when God really wants it. Like you said, like you went to the Joseph story. Now think, you read the Joseph story about the baker and the cupbearer who both had dreams. And then, you know, the guy forgot about him for 2 years. You know, the dream was true. And then he was just so, oh, I'm back in my place. I'm serving the Pharaoh. Who remembers this guy in prison? And then it's like, you know, he has a selective memory, you know. And then finally 2 years, I've remembered my default, and I've remembered my faults. I forgot this guy, and this is the guy that's going to save the Egyptian empire, right? You know, it's like...
I really love like the idea of brokenness in that story. I think Joseph, and we all, like, we need brokenness in our lives, because I think it is through brokenness that we get like his identity. Like I know, like it said, I believe it's Luke 21, like whoever falls on this stone will be broken, but on whom the stone falls will be crushed. Like when we get broken, I think, like, I love to lose hope in myself. I think it's great, because then, like, there's an opportunity for God's character to take over. And I wanted to, like, maybe mention this, like, to what we were talking, like discipline and ministry. Like, I went back after like 4 years of Bible college, and of course, like, everyone's like this is like, I'm not putting blame on anyone. It's just like, you're saying, like, you know, I'm excited to go back. People here are excited I'm going back. People there are excited that I'm going back. You know, the church wasn't necessarily in a great place. Like, hey, like, you're coming back. We're so excited. Like, you can do so many awesome things. And it's like very easy for that to like kind of like creep in. Like, oh, that's my identity. You know, I'm coming to like, you know, like, oh, I'm coming to like save the church or something, you know, because like that's... I'm not saying that's the expectation from anyone, but it's just kind of like creeps in, because like we're so sinful, you know. It's just like it creeps in my life, and like that, like I love, like I'm grateful for like the failures that like I've experienced, you know, even in like ministry or something. The
steps of a good man, right? It says, though he fall, he shall not be cast down. Psalm 37, right?
And I'm so thankful for that, because it's so easy for that to be my identity. Like, I'm a minister, or I'm a preacher, or I'm someone who reads the Bible and then tells other people about it. Like, oh my gosh, like I read the Bible, I'm so good, you know, like, oh my gosh, like I have a great like devotional life. Like, look at me, like I have a revelation from God, you know, and that's like, God is faithful for that thorn, like in Paul, you know, like, like God is the one who talks. Like, who am, like, come on, like, it's God's doing, you know, who am I? Like, God is.
Like in 1 Corinthians, there's that whole division about people. I'm of this guy, I'm of that guy, I'm of this guy. And then you got the one group that's just so hyper spiritual. We are Jesus only people. And it's like, you know, they're creating this image based on that's not really gospel, right?
Yes. And the gospel is really, like, what's the gospel? Like, it's all of him and none of me. And like that continues, like, in ministering, right? Like Galatians 3, you began in the spirit. Like, are you trying to be perfected in the flesh?
Who bewitched you, right?
Who bewitched you? It's so easy. Like, oh my gosh, like, I'm saved by grace. Let's go. I'm going to now do this, you know? And God's like, you began in grace. You began in a way where I was doing it. Continue in that way. Like, what is our boast? You know, like Paul is saying, like, my boast is Christ. And it's so, like, you know, we stumble and like, oh my gosh, like I did it. But God is like, by God's grace, like God's grace, like that's it, like his grace. He's doing it. He saved us, and we're walking by his grace is what empowers us. He's the one who does it. And like, I want to boast like in what God did for me, or like I want to boast in what God is doing. I want to boast like that he's merciful to me. I want to boast that he's faithful. I want to boast like that he's gracious. I want that to be my boast. God is our boast. You know, we boast in you all the day long. Like, I want to talk like God is doing, like, God, thank you. You know, like, God, you're doing it. God is doing it. Like, thank you, God. Like if I did something great, like no, God did it, you know. And like God is teaching me, and I think probably all of us that like, like don't have your identity even like if you did something great, like if you happen to be involved in something and something great happened, like no, like have your identity like God speaks like gracious to you, like God speaks favor, God speaks of mercy to me, God is merciful to me, God is with me, and like that is like who I am.
I'm going to give you, okay, we're almost out of time here, 2 minutes. I'm going to give you, this is a quote from someone, Timothy Keller, true gospel humility. Like if I have true gospel humility, I stop connecting every spirit experience, every conversation with myself. So what do you say about that? Like you've been saying that like it's all God, like who bewitched you? You started in grace. That meant that you didn't earn your salvation. And now you're living like image conscious, like you want to wear a good suit, you know, but it's not that at all, right? Gospel humility is, I think you just said it, but say it again.
Yeah, like that is God. Like God does all our works in us. Like God is the one. God, it's by His Spirit, you know. And I want to say it's like so easy to fall into like not that. It's so easy. Like everything we do, it's like we try to attach our identity to like I just did this or to things or events or like who other people could see us. But that's like so.
We find our true identity only in Him.
I want to say this like very early on in university. Where I got started to like I have so precious memory in my mind. Like it was one of the early in university, and we were there at university, and it was a big class, and there was a question, and I answered it, but I said something like terribly stupid, you know. And people were like, there was like a lot of people, they laughed at it, and I was kind of like, there was like 100 people in the auditorium, 150 people in the auditorium, you know, people are kind of laughing at it, what I said, and I was like, oh my gosh, you know, I was like really like, you know how you feel, like you don't like it. But then like at the end of the day, I left, and I'm just walking home, and I still have like this, like all like kind of like, you know, in me, like storming in me, you know, like little turmoil. And as I'm walking, like kind of like outside the university, like there's this like homeless guy sitting on the bench, and God, I think like prompted me like go talk with him, you know. And I got to be with him, and I got to, you know, we had like a 15-20 minute conversation, and I just got to love on the guy, you know. And like I think you really like I got to listen to him. I got to just like hear like his life story, just what he's going through right now. And I just got to minister to him like, hey, Jesus, like God loves you, you know, God has a plan for your life. And and then he just walked away. But as I was walking away, God really like showed me or sensed like what that just happened there is worth more than like all the scientific thing that happens in the university that I just left. All the research, all the scientific knowledge, all the great minds, all the whatever's going on in there does not compare to like the 20-minute conversation with a homeless guy who needs God, who needed to have a sense of eternity. And I was so great. I was so full, like I couldn't care less of what happened. Like God did it, you know? And I was just like, wow, I was just in awe of God. Like, thank you, you know, like what we did, like nothing on this earth like could compare. Like it's not the balance is not even, you know, it's not even a question. Like that like moment of eternity of like that we get to minister to someone, like love up seemingly, you know, like just a homeless guy on the street is like far beyond. And I was just like, wow, God, that's amazing. Thank you.
That is true. Well, you know, we are, you know, I read something from Amy Carmichael this week about being broken like bread to feed people. And it's just like, and you see the stories of Jesus feeding the 5,000 that they bought all the bits and pieces together in a basket. Nothing's ever wasted. And just a crumb of time like that changed your idea. You were, what was it? We have an ego,
yes,
but our ego can get deflated sometimes, yes. But then the Holy Spirit can fill us back up, and we become into the identity that Christ has for us, because we are chosen and known, and we are going to be perfected in some way. We are new creations. Yeah. Well, Zsombor, thanks so much for jumping in today. Friends, this has been the Grace Hour Show podcast that you can subscribe to on several platforms. Do so: Spotify, YouTube, Apple, Google. You can subscribe and hear this program every day. I'm Pastor Steve Andrulonis with Greater Grace Church. Our board director today, our engineer pushing all the buttons, Jehu Vandiver. Thank you so much. Tune in again, everyone. Subscribe and be a part of the Grace Hour Show as much as possible. Have a great day, everyone.
Praise God.